Hello everybody, today I'm here to talk to you about GarageBand. Not the thing that your mom told you would never take off. The free-to-use audio and music production software that Apple has included in their software suite. GarageBand is a pretty nifty piece of software, especially because it's free, but the downside is that it's only available on Macs. You are in the right place if you are looking for a tutorial on how to use GarageBand to edit your podcast. I'm actually going to be showing you a live demo of how to edit a podcast episode. This is beginning to end a pretty simple podcast episode, an intro and outro, fades, cuts, simple stuff like that. Stuff that you might want to know if you were starting out. Today I'm just going to show you some basics. I may do a video about some more advanced techniques down the line, but today I'm just going to show you how to get started using GarageBand to edit your podcast. Let's go. Alright, so we've pulled up the app. Let's go ahead and start by clicking here, empty project. Let's just start with a brand new clean slate. First thing it's going to ask you to do is to create a track type. Now, as you're editing a podcast, the best way to organize it is by audio files. So for example, let's say you have an intro and then you have a transition sound and then you have an interview, then you have an ad break or something like that. Each of those should probably get their own tracks so that you can keep track of them, and that'll allow you some control as you're kind of mixing the levels and making sure everything sounds about right. You're going to want this specific kind because it will allow you to drag and drop audio files. These other ones are for music production, so we don't really need these right now. Click Create. Let's go ahead and close a couple of these here in order to kind of keep everything clean. All right, since we have one track, let's try doing it a different way, the easier way, which is Command-Option-N. That will bring up this menu and you can just hit create. That'll bring up another track. Let's just do it again because we have 3 audio files we're going to be importing today. But there is something important you want to do real fast. You're going to hear a clicking sound if you hit push play. That's the metronome. We need to go ahead and disable that. Other than that, we are ready to go. You can go ahead and move this. This is called the Playhead. You can move the Playhead back and forth just by clicking and dragging. You can use the period and comma keys. They're like the bracket, the alligator ones, the greater than, less than signs. That's the one. Or you can just hold shift and click wherever you want. It's important to be able to navigate this thing because you'll be using it a lot. To bring it back to the beginning, hit return. That will bring us right to the beginning of our project. We are ready to move. So to import an audio file, you're going to go ahead and right click and select add audio file. Command-Shift-I is the command for that. Let's go ahead and import our intro here. Right away, you can see kind of just visually what's happening. You can see kind of where the silence is at the beginning. You can see as it swells and then there's this drop and then it kind of slowly fades out after that. Being able to recognize what's going on from the waveforms is actually really important. Sometimes you can see a breath or a mouth click in the waveform before you even get to it while you're editing, and that's a great way to save some time. If you really start practicing, you'll be able to start spotting those. Today, I'll be editing a podcast called Russell Realty Minute from my good friend and client, Evan Russell with the Russell Realty Group. He has a nice little short show about real estate tips, and I thought that would be a perfect way to show you how to operate GarageBand today. So let's go ahead and listen to Evan's intro. Let's turn it down. I already can tell it's going to be a little hot.
Welcome to another episode of Russell Realty Minute with your host, Evan Russell, where Evan shares his real-world real estate experience with you. If you like what you hear, please be sure to give him a quick review right here in iTunes. Thank you for listening.
Okay, so that's Evan's intro. So as you can tell, it slowly fades out all by itself. So we don't need to worry about fading in and out as far as the music goes, really. So let's go ahead and decide where everything is going to start. So I just like to play it through and then just kind of stop when it feels right. So let's just listen.
Here in iTunes. Thank you for listening.
Right there, right? That feels pretty natural at that spot. So something I neglected to mention is I'm using the space bar to click play and pause. You do not always have to use these right here. If I were you, I would just pull up a list of keyboard shortcuts in GarageBand. There's lots of really good, easy ones. I just know them by heart. So I apologize if I don't bring up exactly how to do every single one. If you're starting out, a great way to kind of learn what things are called, and if you have a question, kind of how to Google it, like this bar thing isn't working, like how do you say that? Well, you can click this little question mark guy here called the quick help button, and it will actually give you a little menu. Oh, I'm in the way of it, but it'll actually show you what everything is called and what it does. It's actually really, really nifty if you're just starting out. It gives you a perfect way to like get Googleable answers if you have a question about something. So keep that in mind if you ever get stuck. All right, now it's time to rock and roll. Let's go ahead and import our interview. So you want to select the track that we're going to be putting it on. And as I mentioned, you can use Command-Shift-I, or you can just right-click and do that there. All right, we've imported the audio here. Like I said, we were going to start it around here. So let's go ahead and move our audio. You can see where it starts right here. So we're going to start it right there. All right, so tip number 1, zooming in and out. You're going to want to be able to zoom. So this right here, this action of making things bigger and smaller, you're going to do that by holding Shift Option and then scrolling up and down. If you're using a laptop, you can actually just pinch in and out, which is very nifty. I believe you need to hold the Option key as well to kind of make that work here. This is going to be a live edit, so you're going to see everything I do. I'm not going to cut any of it.
Yes, homes are selling over asking price. They're selling in 3 or 4 or 5 days once you put on the MLS. But your home...
All right, so right here, something I noticed, you may or may not have thought this as well. This is a little bit long of a pause. So we're going to want to do our first cut. So first thing you want to do is get this playhead wherever you want to make the cut. Like I said, you can click and drag it, but the more efficient way is just hold Shift and click wherever you want it to be. I'd say maybe about right there. And we're going to click on the region, the audio region that we want to edit, and we're going to hit Command-T. That's going to create a cut between the two, and then we can kind of scoot this closer, and as long as we're not in the way of this right here. So let's just listen to that again.
You put on the MLS, but
I think that sounds much more natural. So let's just keep moving.
Your home still deserves the marketing. They still deserve the professional pictures. They still deserve the floor plan. It still deserves the YouTube channel, video. It still deserves you.
All right, so if you notice there, he actually said it still deserves the YouTube channel. And then as an afterthought, he said video. The issue is there's not going to really be a clean way to edit that. So I would just cut the word video. It's a little inelegant, but it gets the point across. And really, it's exactly what he meant to say. He's just meaning your house should have kind of its own YouTube thing.
YouTube channel, video.
So let's just go ahead and cut that. So back here, I showed you how to edit using this kind of window in GarageBand, but GarageBand has a cool little section where it's called the audio editor, and it's actually much better for editing audio. Let me show you. So you double click on an audio region and this window will pop up here. Now you'll notice when I bring my cursor down here, it will actually turn into kind of a crosshairs sort of thing. This will allow you to select a range, which is very useful as you're editing audio, because sometimes you have a whole word that you want to cut and you don't want to make a cut, go back, make another cut, and then go click that and then push delete. This is so much faster. So it's helpful to think of this up here as a viewer, kind of to see what's going on, and down here as more of like the actual where you get your hands dirty kind of thing. All right, so enough jibber jabber. Let's get on with editing.
Marketing. They still deserve the professional pictures. They still deserve the floor plan. It still deserves the YouTube channel, video.
All right, so as you heard there, we need to cut video. So the easiest way to do that is just going to be to click around video right here, highlight it down here, and then you notice it does the same up here, and just hit delete, and it will remove it completely. And if we want to, we can move things a little closer. Let's see how it sounds.
It still deserves the YouTube channel. It still deserves you to...
It could be a little closer, so let's kind of nudge this closer a little bit.
Still deserve the floor plan. It still deserves the YouTube channel. It still deserves you...
A little bit more, I think. That's the other thing about editing, is that it's kind of subjective. You might not have worried about that. You might not have even thought that. That's why every edit is kind of its own style. Some people let their sentences breathe and have more kind of space between words. Others don't. Others get right to the point to cut big chunks of text. So really, being an editor is kind of an art form. There's no one right way to do it.
A custom link that will attract potential buyers into your home. Yeah, it's easy to put on the MLS, and it's even easier to share the free MLS social link that says share to social. That's easy. So ask your agent, what are you going to spend to market my home?
Next thing I wanted to show you here is how do I keep track of where I am? So if I need to set down a project and come back to it later, how do I remember where I was without having to go way back until the last edit? The best way to do this is periodically to make what I call a marker edit. You don't have to do this. This is just kind of my personal way of doing it. But I basically just create a single edit, you can just double click down here in the editor, or you can hit Command T up here. What this will let you do is remember where your last edit was. And if everything before your last edit is fine, then you don't need to worry about it. So some people think that's, oh no, you should just have edits where you actually did edits. I disagree. I think it's just important to kind of know where you stopped, and basically everything before the last edit is like approved in your eyes, right? So if you see me do an edit with no real rhyme or reason, and I don't actually move anything, I just kind of create a split, that's why I'm doing it.
What are you going to buy? What are you going to do? Are you going to put it in the MLS and just let everybody else show it? Or are you going to create the professional marketing, the professional pictures, a floor plan, a video, a custom website with the URL, 123mainstreet.com? Are you going to put that out where people are going to find it? Or are you going to take the listing for...
As you can see down here, this is a little, I don't know if he hit the desk or if he kind of set his hand down or something, but it created this little thud. We can totally remove that, and we should if we notice it. So let's just go ahead and give it a try. I think it should work just fine. Let's see how it sounds.
Out where people are going to find it. Or are you going to take the listing for X amount of percent?
I think that works because it kind of sounds like he's thinking too, so we can just leave that space.
Put it in the MLS and let everybody else do the work for you. There is a difference between the agents you choose. There is a difference between how agents market. Professional photos is one thing. You take the professional photos, you still throw it in the MLS, and you let everybody else share it. What else are you going to do for me? How are you going to expose my home?
All right, let's go ahead and add a marker edit here just because it's been maybe 10-ish seconds.
Ask them to show you. Let me see how you market my home. Let me see the websites you've created.
And if you remember the catch playhead feature, you can go ahead and do that with, I believe it's just the apostrophe key, yeah. In the top left corner of the keyboard underneath the escape key, and it allows you to turn that on and off depending on where you are in the window. So since we're down here, it makes it so you don't have to scroll a lot. It makes it easier.
See what your Facebook ads look like. Let me see what your Instagram ads look like. Let me see what your social budget is on how you're going to market my home. Or what am I paying you for? Am I paying you to just put it in the MLS and let everybody else show it and sell it?
All right, let's see if we can cut one of those ands. He said show it and sell it. Let's zoom in with Option Shift Scroll, or pinch in and out if you are on a laptop. And let's just see if we can cut. I believe it's right here. And let's just delete that. Let's see what it sounds like.
Show it and sell it?
It doesn't quite sound natural. Let's try kind of moving it closer. Let's see what this sounds like.
Show it and sell it?
All right, let's try again. I'm thinking this may not work. Sometimes this happens in editing where you think something will work and you try it and it just doesn't. So let's just give it a shot.
Anybody else show it and sell it?
Almost. I think if we just bring it a little closer, it will sound natural. Let's give it a shot.
Show it and sell it?
So close here.
Show it and sell it?
All right, so unfortunately, this isn't quite to my liking. And so I think what we're going to do is just leave it alone. We're going to hit undo, Command Z until that magical little thing comes back, and we're just going to leave it alone. This is okay. As an editor, it's tempting to remove every tiny little thing, but you're wasting your time, you're wasting your client's time, really, if you do every tiny little thing that can't necessarily sound good. In some higher end softwares, there's ways to kind of get around that, and I'll talk about that in another video. But basically, you need to work with what you have. But it's just going to take too much time, and really, this was not that distracting. Listen to it again.
Anybody else show it and sell it?
Not a big deal. He breezes right past it. It was one repeated word. It even kind of brings his point, like, well, what are you gonna do? Like, sell it? Like, he's kind of, you know what I mean? So it's part of what he's saying. It works. So I think that it's fine in a lot of circumstances to just leave it alone and just kind of do what you can to edit. And some people's speech patterns also are harder to edit. Some people kind of say their words together and they don't necessarily enunciate or separate their words. Some people really do, and they make editing extremely easy, but depends on who you're editing. So let's go ahead and just move on here.
How is that building value for your clients? It's not. It's the easy way out. And then you're going to say, well, geez, I'm worth my, X percent.
All right. So he said, twice, really, really close together. And I think we should try to remove one of those. Let's try to hear which one would be the easiest to remove.
I'm worth my, X percent.
So in this one, the beginning one, it's the beginning of a sentence. So we don't have to worry about the transition coming into it. So I think we should try to do that one. Let's go ahead and find it down here. Once again, scrolling with Option Shift Scroll.
You know, I'm worth my,
All right.
you know.
All right, it's right here. So let's go ahead and go down here. All right. I think if we just cut it right here, we won't have to do anything else. Let's hear it.
Geez, worth my, you know.
Oh, I cut too far. Editing is a lot of trial and error, to be honest. So let's see.
I'm worth my.
All right, so one thing that I'd like to point out is that he comes in like, bam, it's like a mic was turned on in the middle of his sentence. It doesn't sound right, as you notice. It sounds unnatural.
I'm worth my.
This is something you may not notice at first, but as you edit more and more, you will hear things like this. And this can be taken care of through something called automation in GarageBand. There are ways to do it that are easier in other programs. This is actually one of the most annoying things in GarageBand. So if this is annoying to you, I'm sorry, but this is the only way to do this as far as I am aware. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit the A key, and it's going to open up our automation menu. As you notice, there's these little yellow bars here. Whenever we click the A button, it goes in and out. So this line right here basically represents the volume. So what this automation feature does is it allows us to change the volume going up or down as quickly or as slowly as we want it to, and fade in or fade out over time. So let's go ahead and click right here to kind of activate the automation setting. The volume has been fine up to now, so we can just leave it like this. And let's zoom in a little. So if you remember, this is what it sounds like.
I'm worth my.
So now what we're going to want to do is fade into it. If you can fade into a harsh sound like that, you can usually disguise it and make it sound much, much more natural. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting a point just a little ways in here. Boom, like this. This is what you're going to see. And then you're going to put one right before the region, like this, okay? All right, now that we've done that, we need to add two more. Trust me, this will make sense, just in between the audio. These can be as close together as you want, as long as they are not actually touching. Next, we are going to grab this little bar in the middle here and yank it down, boom. And that is all we have to do. What this does is this is actually the volume, and you'll actually be able to see this at work right here. So check this out. This is the volume knob, but look at what it does when it passes this automation.
I'm worth my.
See? So it dips down super, super fast and just right back up again. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to this. And if it still doesn't sound quite natural, we're going to maybe steepen this ramp right here. I know this seems like a lot of work. In a lot of other audio programs, it is not this hard. You can literally just drag a thing on the corner and it will do a fade. But this is the easiest way to do it in GarageBand. And if you're looking to do something relatively inexpensively, this may be the best you get. Or, just learn how to talk better. But for now, this is the best we got. So let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like with this fade that we just made.
I'm worth my,
So if you notice, it actually is quite a bit more clean. I don't know if you remember because it was a couple minutes ago, but it's much more subtle. It sounds natural. I would never realize that that was an edit if I had heard it.
I'm worth my, X%.
And he said, again, but he only said it once. So it's fine, I think. So let's go ahead and close our automation menu here by pressing the letter A. We are already over halfway because, like I said, Evan likes to keep them short. Respect, Evan.
Listen, the listing agent you hire should be willing to invest.
Okay, so I think the listen right there sounds a little odd because he's been saying listing so much. It kind of sounds like he's trying to say listing and just sounds like it's in the middle of nowhere. So let's go ahead and actually edit this. So we're going to chop out a bunch of this silence here, and then we're going to chop out this. And so we'll just hit delete. And then we're going to, like I said, use the top half here to drag this a little closer. I'm just eyeballing it right now. That's kind of what editing is. You kind of make a cut, listen back to it. If it sounds good, great. If it doesn't, try it again. All right, here's what it sounds like.
Well, geez, I'm worth my, X%. The listing agent you hire should be.
Cool, I think that works. Maybe a tiny bit more space. Let's try it again.
I'm worth my, X%. The listing agent you hire should be willing to invest in.
Yeah, I think we can leave it at that. Let's just finish off this episode, and then I'll show you how to import your outro audio, which is also just as important.
An X amount of dollars into your house for one, to market your house appropriately, for two, to give you a link so you can share with your friends and family that your house is being sold and anybody you might know. And then it goes in the MLS, and of course it goes out to the masses. And odds are somebody else is going to sell it. Very rarely does somebody.
All right, let's do another marker. I will give Evan this. His episodes are very short, but he knows how to pack lots of stuff in without really making many mistakes, to be honest. So these episodes are more about editing out a few imperfections and then adding the intro and outro and mixing them so that they're about the same levels. That's mostly what we're doing today. And GarageBand is great for that.
Double-sided deal here at Russell Root.
He had an Let's listen again.
Deal here at Russell Root. We don't.
Okay, so let's go ahead and cut this. Zoom in here. So something important to notice is that he said, here. So the letter H and other consonants like S and F they slide into the word. So you can't really just cut them because they'll sound wrong. Let me show you. So I'll just cut right in the middle of it so you can hear what it sounds like. This is what it sounds like when you just make a cut and with no other anything.
Here at Russell Root.
So you either get a kind of here at Russell Realty Group, or
here at Russell,
or you cut off the beginning of it, which is tricky. So what we need to do, unfortunately, another fade. So as you can see, reading the waveforms is very important here when you're editing. So as you can see, he said, here. So let's go ahead and cut as close to as we can to where we think the ended. So as you can see, I think it's right here. Let's listen to what it sounds like.
Here at Russell. Here at Russell. Here at Russell.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of the left, but we are going to disguise it with automation. So go ahead and click A to open up the automation menu. We want to create a fade that starts a little ways in, not too much, and then put another point here that's a little ways out, and then ... wherever you want after that, as long as it's after this region. Pull down the bar, and you've created a fade. Let's hear what it sounds like.
Here at Russell.
All right, so as you notice, it sounds better, but it's still a little bit messy. Let's click this diagonal line here and just slide it a little bit and play it back and see if we can get it to sound right.
Here at Russell.
Ooh, almost. I think if we slide it a little bit more, I think we'll be good. You ready?
Here at Russell Root.
Boom, that is completely disguised. No one ever knew that he said a filler word. And it may seem like a lot of work, but especially on a podcast like this, where Evan does not have a lot of filler words to begin with, it is worth the pain to go through and get the few that are there and just kind of clean things up. We are closing in here on the end, but let's go ahead and just hear what the rest of this sounds like.
Sided deal. Here at Russell Root, we don't double side at all. We'll give it to a buyer agent.
As you notice, he stutters a little bit here. He repeats a word.
So Root, we don't double side.
So as you noticed, he actually said that twice. So what we can actually do is fake it a little bit. We're going to kind of merge. We're going to Frankenstein these two words. We are going to cat dog these two words together.
We don't double side. We don't double.
So it's these two waveforms right here. Right here.
Double side.
So he says, he was going to say double-sided, but he said the D right here a little too early. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a cut right in here in the middle. And as you notice, these waveforms look very similar. That's because they're the same sound. Okay, check this out again.
Double-sided.
You have to listen quick.
Russell Root, we don't double-sided at all.
What we can actually do sometimes, this doesn't always work, but it's worth a shot when you have something like this, is to just slide it right in and just make it take the other one's spot, and we're going to see what it sounds like. Sometimes this works surprisingly well with no fades or anything. Sometimes it's a little more work. Sometimes it's not worth it. So let's go ahead and listen to see what it sounds like.
Here at Russell Root, we don't double side at all. We'll give. Here at Russell Root, we don't double side at all.
I think that sounds good. I think it's passable. I will say there is a teeny tiny pop when there's a transition right here. I don't think most people would notice it. Evan talks pretty quick. So, I mean, listen to this again. Close your eyes. Let's see if you can figure out where it is.
Double-sided deal. Here at Russell Realty, we don't double-sided at all. We'll give it to a buyer.
You might be able to hear that, but I think it's not a big deal. If you really want to, and let's just go the extra mile here. Let's create a little fade. Let's zoom way in. And let's do exactly what I said. Let's just create a fade a little ways in like this. And then another one here. Pull down our bar. Let's just see what that sounds like.
We don't double-sided at all.
And that disguised the little pop that there was. Editing a podcast is a balancing act between being a perfectionist, getting every little pop and click and sound, and realizing that sometimes you just can't. And it actually sounds better to let things be natural and sound normal and like the person's actual voice. This is a good example of, did we have to take that out? No. Could we? Yes. And since there are so few edits, I think personally it's worth it if you can do it.
We'll give it to a buyer agent and separate. We won't do the dual agent thing, but other people do, and that's okay. But you really have to find out who's going to spend some money to market your home. Even if it sells in a couple days, even if the market's so fast, it's selling in 3, 4, 5, 6 days, it still deserves the professional marketing, and the agent owes it to you to put that money into the listing to make it look the best way it possibly can. That includes a floor plan, that includes a video with the maximum amount of exposure, and most.
All right, so as you can hear, this was a little fumbled here.
With the max.
So he said with the maximum exposure. So let's go ahead and just cut that here. Let's find it.
With the max.
So it should be right here. If my audio prowess has not failed me, let's see if I got it right.
The maximum amount.
Oh, yep, I missed it. So this is the width.
With the maximum.
Yeah, so let's just scoot this closer, and then I think we've done that edit.
Is exposed with the max.
So here's another thing that I see editors do all the time that really bugs me. They leave stuff that sounds like this.
Exposed with the maximum.
That is an unnatural sounding edit, obviously, but why is it unnatural? What makes it sound unnatural? I will tell you, and that is that you are cutting off a breath. Listen to this.
Exposed with the max.
So he's breathing in, and we cut it right off. So when you have an edit that comes right after a breath, make sure that you either cut the breath completely, you make it so they have time to finish the breath, or you fade it so that it sounds like they finished the breath. So let's listen now.
Exposed with the max.
Okay, so let's... All right, so let's bring this closer here. Let's see if we got the whole breath.
Exposed with the maximum.
All right, cool.
Exposed with the max.
All right, so now I'm going to do another automation here just to make sure this sounds good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, bring that down, go out of automation with the A key, and let's listen.
With the max.
I may be doing another video that's like more advanced stuff. So if you ever have any questions, make sure to put them in the comments of this video. And I may include those in my future GarageBand tutorials, or maybe even a Logic tutorial. That's the tool I use, which is very similar to GarageBand. It costs $200. So it's a one-time fee. It's a pro tool. It basically does anything that you can do in any professional software. It just costs money is the thing, but it operates a lot like GarageBand. Highly recommend you check out Logic if you've got a little bit of a budget. You want to kind of do this a little more professionally and a little bit easier too. There's a lot more tools you can use that make things much simpler, like this wretched automation thing that I don't know why they do it. They probably do it to push you to Logic, to be honest, because it actually pays.
And most importantly, the least amount of cost to you.
All right, that's the end. Cool. So now we've gotten through the entire episode, the whopping maybe 4-minute episode here. Now we need to add the outro. Evan's podcast has a specific outro. A lot of my clients do this. They basically have a long audio track that goes on for maybe a couple minutes, and you want to fade it in slowly over time. Let's do a right click, add audio file, and then go to our desktop. We've got the outro saved right here. Okay, so as you can see, let's zoom out. This is really, really long compared to how long the rest of his podcast is. So this is the actual voiceover part. So we're going to do some more automation here. So let's just cut all of this because we probably don't need almost all of this here. Usually with an outro and an intro, what you want to do is kind of have them pre-faded and everything like that, so you can just plop it right in there. For this demo, I wanted to make sure we had something that we could demonstrate this with. So let's go ahead and open our automation. Let's just hear what it sounds like without changing anything. It's probably going to be really loud.
Owes it to you to put that money into the list and make it look.
Yeah, it's way, way too loud. All right, so let's bring this way down. I'll be talking about mixing in just a minute here, so if you're worried about volume levels and stuff, hang tight. We will talk about that in just a second.
Look the best way.
All right, still a little too loud. But actually, let's leave it here because we're going to do some automation. So let's see if the timing sounds right. First thing you want to do always is just make sure your timing is where it needs to be. So if the audio file plays at the right part, if it ends and then the voiceover starts, that's what you want to figure out first. So let's listen to what it sounds like at the end.
With the maximum amount of exposure and most importantly, the least amount of cost to you.
This has been
That's spot on. Yeah, I nailed that. All right. So what we're going to do right here is create an automation that bumps the audio right after he finishes talking. So as you can see, he stops talking right here. So let's just go ahead and create a little line right there and just fade it up. We need our baseline to be quite a bit lower because this is going to be under him talking the whole time. So it needs to be pretty quiet. Close the automation menu with A, and then let's just hear what it sounds like.
To put that money into the listing to make it look the best way it possibly can. That includes a...
All right, so I like to do something like this. Basically, let's create a point where we want it to be at its maximum volume, maybe right here. And then we'll create another point right here and drag it all the way down. What this will do is it'll play from nothing to here over a few seconds. So it'll actually sound like a nice slow fade. It won't get in the way of anything. Listen to what it sounds like.
To put that money into the listing to make it look the best way it possibly can. That includes a floor plan, that includes a video, that includes room dimensions, that includes the full 9 to make sure your home is exposed with the maximum amount of exposure and most importantly, the least amount of cost to you.
This has been another Russell.
All right, that's a little too loud. But I think we are just about done with the actual edit. Now, what we need to do is worry about our levels. So big important thing we need to do here is make sure that when the audio transitions to a different track or things like that, that it doesn't suddenly blast out your listener's ears. Option, shift, and scroll to zoom all the way out to the big main view here. Now, as you notice, you can see kind of the peaks and valleys getting really big and really small, but I didn't hear anything problematic as I was listening through. Nothing was particularly loud or anything. We're actually going to leave this as is. We're not going to really do any mixing and mastering. This is a beginner tutorial, so let's focus on getting the levels of your intro and outro and your main audio where they need to be, and we can worry about that later. Now that we've kind of been listening through this whole thing, let's just listen to the beginning and see if there's a big major audio difference in the volumes.
Welcome to another episode of Russell.
Yeah, see, it was a little louder, so we've been kind of naturally declining in volume this whole time. So let's kind of go down a little bit.
You like what you hear?
Yes, homes are selling over the floor plan. It still deserves a YouTube channel.
So what I like to do just as a final pass, let's just listen through for a few little sections here and see if it kind of, the volume sounds about the same in a few sections throughout the whole thing.
The professional pictures, shared or social. That's easy. The professional pictures, there is a difference what it look like. Let me see what you a link so you can share with young in 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Includes the full 9, the least amount of cost to you.
This has been another Russell Real.
All right, I would say the only thing is let's bring this down just a little tiny bit.
Is exposed with the maximum amount of exposure and most importantly, the least amount of cost to you.
This has been another Russell Realty Minute, brought to you by Evan Russell.
I think we're ready to go. This was a great episode, Evan. Thanks so much if you're watching. But we're going to go ahead and just export this now. So what you're going to do is select all. You can either hit Command A or just do like I did just a second ago, just drag and select everything. Then share, and then we're going to do export song to disk. All right, so I like to use a kind of a code for each of my clients. He is RRM, Russell Realty Minute, and this is episode 120, and we're going to call it the final of 120. So really, we're just going to hit export and then just watch it do its thing. All right, that was my tutorial on how to use GarageBand. I hope that was helpful for you. If this was helpful, but I missed out on something that you would want to hear, go ahead and leave that as a comment so that I can maybe add that into a future, maybe more advanced GarageBand tutorial. If you are the world's biggest GarageBand stan for podcasts, let me know. I know that this is a little bit of a trickier program to use, but for it being a free program, this is a fantastic app to use to edit your podcast if you're just starting out and you have a MacBook or another Apple computer.